Hello and welcome to SATV's International Affairs. My name is Rashid Kanchon. I'll be in the studio as your host, and I have a very terrific panel today. I have very distinguished gentlemen here in the studio and connection from Washington. I have Brigadier General retired Shafat Ahmed. He's a security and conflict analyst. We have Muhammad Rashid Alam Bhuya. He's a professor for political science in Dhaka University, and from Washington DC, former ambassador and peace negotiator, Mr. Norman Floyd Barnes will be joining with us. Norman, are you on the line? But I want to start from Brigadier General Shafat Ahmed. My first question would be to General Shafat is Trump-Netanyahu diplomacy. US President Donald Trump urged hostages releases before meeting Netanyahu. Analysts say their cooperation could shift regional dynamics toward Israeli dominance. And in one side, Israel has agreed for ceasefire. On the other side, Hamas has agreed for a ceasefire. What are you seeing between these negotiation?
Thank you, Mr. Rashid, for the question. See, the Middle East conundrum, what is happening there between Israel and Gaza people or Hamas is really puzzling, because I read somewhere that Netanyahu has said that under no circumstances Israel will allow sovereignty to the Palestinians. So if that is the case, probably whatever they are doing is eyewash. They want to take total control of the area. So in view of that, probably this is a ploy to bring Hamas into the negotiation table and then extricate as much as they can from them. And secondly, they are not talking anything about the people of Gaza. They are not talking about the relief to the people of Gaza. They are not talking about the plight of the refugees and the other factors, humanitarian aspect. Because to them, it seems that even for Trump, the main concern is that to ensure that Gaza remains completely under domination of Israel. So keeping that in view, I don't know really what will be the outcome of this ceasefire.
You are confused and you say it eyewash.
Maybe.
Mr. Norman, we want to get Mr. Norman from Washington DC. Mr. Norman, we have a very veteran general here who says that he see the eyewash diplomacy between the ceasefire agreement within the Hamas and Israel negotiating by President Donald Trump. Mr. Norman, as a US citizen, as a veteran employee of United States Department, what is your comment? How do you defend yourself?
Good morning, everyone. The defense, there's no defense. The situation is what it is. The Prime Minister is leaving Washington today without a deal. The issue is Hamas wants to retain its presence and its power in Gaza. Israel want Hamas out. They want it to be eliminated. They want them to be gone. So the sticking point is, one, Hamas said, hey, we'll stop fighting. Israel said, well, we'll stop fighting if you leave. If you stop, if you give up your power, you leave the area. Hamas is stating very simply, no. And that's where we stand right now, no.
I just received news that Hamas reportedly agreed to release some hostages. Israeli strikes in Gaza killed dozens more, and UN has sanctioned a 60-day ceasefire proposal. Do you have any updates on this, Mr. Norman?
No, that is fresh, updated news. It's very positive that there's some movement in place. So hopefully we will get an outcome very shortly, hopefully before this broadcast is over.
We have at our studio one Middle East specialist. He has done his PhD from Coventry University, UK. His specialization is on international migration, remittances, political economy and Middle East politics. Muhammad Rashid Alam Bhuya, welcome to SATV studio. My first question is to you. What's going on in Middle East?
Thank you so much for inviting me in your program. So my intake is like the ongoing conflict in Israel and Palestine. It's like it's ultimate expression of Zionist colonization of Palestine. So it has been taking place for the last 1 century and more actually. So the conflict now it escalated at ultimate stage, and Zionists they now try to establish the greater Israel. And recent taken over of like the Trump and Netanyahu collectively announced before they're gonna completely erase Gaza, Gazan people, and they try to settle them in other countries. That was their earlier announcement. So on pretext of that, the ceasefire deal that has been announced or that is on the ongoing process, I have heard that. But I think there is a behind the scene there are some other issues. I don't think so. They withdraw themselves from the ultimate goals of like they want to take over Gaza by this ceasefire ultimately and take over all of it for the greater Israel. They want to make like they want to annexation of like some parts of Syria, some parts of Egypt. So they want to make greater Israel. That is their ultimate plan. So this ceasefire, I think, is very temporary, and I don't think so, because earlier they also announced something ceasefire, but that hasn't been honored by the Israel. Yeah.
I do agree with you, Professor. World has seen how Israel and United States and their allies destroyed Iraq, claiming that they have the WMD, weapons of mass destruction, how they have destroyed Syria, how they have destroyed Libya, Egypt, right, and recently Iran. Right. And you says that Israel's ultimate goal is to establish a greater Israel. Do you want to say something about the non-unity between the Arab leaders?
Right. So that is, you've pointed out correctly, like there is issues of like, if there is unity among the Arab countries, like the way the Gulf countries and also the wider Middle Eastern countries, like though Iran is now presenting as a resistant force against those aggression, US and Israeli aggression on the people's life in Gaza and Palestine. So unfortunately, the unity among the broader lines from the Arab countries, like because they are the neighbors of the conflict zone, and they have wider responsibilities. Like it's if they feel like a Muslim ummah or they believe there, I don't think so. You have to be Muslim. You have to be a humanitarian to assess the condition of Palestine and Gaza at the moment. So, but they've completely slipped and they completely blindfold against what's going on in the Middle East. Rather they armed, rather they give finance to this war by giving Trump's more money for weapons. They're getting more weapons. For like last month we have seen that UAE and Saudi Arabia bought more weapons from America. So that ultimately, improved the war industry in USA, but at the cost of the civilian life of Gaza and Palestine and other parts of the world. That what US is currently doing, the complete dominance of the world, and they are not following any international rules, regulation, laws, treaties, convention, and even charter. They're not followed nothing. So their complete domination and complete realist picture now. They are now completely motivated by a realist perspective of international relations and politics at the moment. So they are not honoring any idealistic principles or humanitarian
organized narrative. I must go to General Shafat. You are an experienced person in this particular war, conflict. You are a soldier, you are a general. Sir, my question would be, if India-Pakistan goes for a war, President Donald Trump pick the phone call and order both the counterparts, they stop the war. If Israel-Iran goes for the war, he can accomplish and he can go for a deal. If Israel and Hamas go for the war, he can accomplish. Why he is not taking care of Russia-Ukraine?
It's very interesting. You see, you have to go deep into the problem. It is not anything new. You have to go back to what Admiral Mahan has talked about in the Middle East. the great game that was played in the early 20th century, late 19th century between Russia and Britain. And when Lord Curzon came to India and his policies, remember that Lord Curzon had not only been the Viceroy in India, he had also been the Secretary of State in British government. So it is from there that started, because Mahan indicated that this area, starting from the eastern Mediterranean coast up to the Persian Gulf, and in the south from Yemen, in the north inclusive of Turkey and part of Azerbaijan, Armenia. This area, they have termed it as crescent of crisis later on. Plus, this area is full of natural resources. If you look at the thing, what USA is interested is that they want to take control of the complete resources that is there. So for that, whatever they have to do, they will do it. As you said, that USA is really playing realistic game. They are not bothered idealistic. There have been very few presidents who have been idealistic, like Woodrow Wilson or Jimmy Carter. Most of them have been following realistic policies. They have been, even the idea of clash of civilization, it started with the President Nixon's initiative, and then that is how today the world got divided, the clash of civilization. Okay, so here also you have to look into it, that the great interest of USA is to have total control over this region and its wealth. Now, as far as the Arab countries, the Gulf states and Saudi Arabia, you have to understand one thing: these states are ruled by the sheikhs, who do not have much of people's support. So they know that if they loosen their grip on the people, they might lose their throne. So they are very particular about it. And for that, they are taking all the help from West, especially USA. Now just imagine, Trump came and he signed a deal of how much, $3 trillion?
3 days.
So was it necessary?
Three.
For against whom? For what? That means it paid for the Israel's war with Iran.
Yes.
And then there is another problem in Middle East, is the clash between Iran and rest of Arabs. I will not call it as a what do you call Shia Sunni, because it is not Shia Sunni, it is beyond that. Because I personally feel that basically it is the ideology that is being propagated by Iran that control democracy. Whereas in Middle Eastern Gulf states, there is no democracy virtually.
There are sheikhs.
The sheikhs have, what they have done is this, because of the oil, they have kept their people happy. And the Arabs are also not bothered much about it, because they are living a very happy life.
Yeah.
If you recollect, the Sheikh of UAE, President Sheikh's father, he was asked, what do you think of the future of UAE? He said, we'll be back to the desert life.
Yeah.
Then a time will come when these resources will finish and they will back again with their camel into the desert.
So I need a counter comment from Mr. Norman. Norman, I'm sure you are hearing the comment from a very senior specialist from this particular issue. Do you have anything to complement or supplement or oppose or accept? Norman? That United States has more focus on Middle East.
The United States interest has always been resources. They're looking like Ukraine, they're looking for the resources. They want a presence there. They want an economic base where they can do trade and commerce. So what the United States will do is provide the resources, equipment, response, political, backdoor, front door resources necessary to achieve that goal. So let's remember, it's about economic development. And the United States wants to be a leader. continue to be a leader in the world, combating China. China is an up and coming, country. Russia has input. We're looking at North Korea. We got the issues with the BRICS. We're just the states is trying to position themselves so they have a stable environment where they can continue their policy on economic development.
Mr. Norman, we want to look at the Russia-Ukraine issue. I'll come back to you again. First, I want to catch Professor Mohammad Rashid Alam Bhuiyan. You teach political science, so definitely you have focus on international affairs. You see, Russia-Ukraine war support again turns over. President Trump reverts the Pentagon pause and resumes shipments of precision-guided munitions, which is in short term it is called GMLRS rockets and Patriot systems to Ukraine. The move comes amid highlighting Russian drone and missile barrages. Last 3 years, world is watching how Russia is fighting with Ukraine and how Ukraine is protecting their motherland. My question is, NATO was very supporting in the initial stage, but NATO is now showing less interest to support Ukraine. Why it turns into in different directions?
Thank you so much. So, I mean, from the very beginning, the NATO is actually hugely financed by USA. I mean, the history says that. So, it was US interests that basically formed the very much organization of NATO. So, I mean, since UA is backing down from the NATO's like the finance and NATO's support and NATO's worldwide, because the Donald Trump is very much now following it like a, I mean, his word is America great policy, make America great again. So which means, and also defining the USA like organization, it can give us a message that USA now is like isolation foreign policy, something like that. Although in some international conflict area, they are still very much active, but overall completely defunking the US aid and also completely halting the resources for NATO and also the Ukraine war, it gives a message that US are now following a like isolation foreign policy where UK want to make its interest is the greater, like the completely like the Biden administration or other US president, what they used to do, the US presence everywhere in the world, but now USA try to, because of the internal issues they have, like the debt they have, like which is surpassing now $38 trillion. So this war, like the war they had in Iraq, the war they had in Afghanistan, so now in Ukraine. So they always hunt for resources and they calculate how much I gonna earn from this war and how much I'm investing. So when they understand that they have nothing to achieve in Afghanistan anymore, they just give in the power to the Taliban, the forces they actually fought against. So this is the failure of their US policy. We can internationally, it gives a message that US surrendering to Afghanistan or Taliban, which is not US that we wanted to see, that we are accustomed to see. So this is how like US are following a different route under the Trump administration, and like he has like a, I think it's bizarre relationship with international leaders, and like we have time to time we have heard his speeches, which is contradictory in some context sometimes. So like the USA and following the halting of the resources for Ukraine war is a message to that, like USA, the Trump administration is mostly focusing on US own interests, like the tariff war, the trade war that has started in the world at the moment, which is also give us a message like the institution that USA made in post-Second World War, like Bretton Woods conferences, the Washington consensus that developed the institution like World Bank, IMF, then followed by GATS, General Agreement of Tariffs and Trade, which is later known as the World Trade Organization. Those are the US brainchild organization, and they made the international economic order, international financial system. So now if they withdraw from this World Agreement of Tariffs and Trade, like the World Trade Organization, they wanted to liberalize the economy, liberalize the trade and resources. International flow of goods and resources should be streamlined without any barriers. That was their plan. But now they're imposing tariffs on international trade, so which is completely different picture. And I think it gives us a signal that the world economic and geopolitical order going to a different route, and USA is actually losing its control. And we are, I mean, the war with China at the moment, the trade war with China, it can escalate a greater conflict, as far I understand. With
so
this
many forecasted we have got from your description. I must ask one question to General Shafat.
Yes.
Very direct question.
Please.
Is war business?
In modern day, yes. War has become a business. Because if you look at the Operation Desert Storm, the WMD affair, it was basically to boost up US defense industry. Similarly, even now, if you look at the Iran-Israel conflict, again here the question of business comes in.
Trading arms. So what is business, Mr. Norman? And USA, in a positive side, they have lot of arms manufacturing companies. They are doing good business worldwide, and United States is putting tariffs on different countries. So you are trying to recover your economy, right, Mr. Norman?
Yes, the comment about war business, actually the business, war is the instrument of big business, meaning we utilize war as an instrument, a tool. We weaponize tariffs, we provide arms, we provide weapons in order to stimulate economic development. These types of actions is being looked upon in the world as at best arbitrary. Yes, it makes money, but it causes more conflicts. It's not the end solution. So we have to look at this thing. We say war. War is something that is used to achieve another goal. And we have to dwell down and find out what is the actual ultimate goal of this war. Why do we go to war? Usually it's something to do with trade, commerce, resources, something that we don't have and we want.
All right, Norman. I just want to do the same question to Professor Rashid Alambuya. Both the gentlemen agreed that war is a business. How do you explain?
It's like a huge syndicate like that work behind the Washington, the President Trump's office. So it's like he doesn't work for himself. He sometimes works for some syndicates, some conglomerate, some like the oligarchy people who continue their businesses. So it's not the plain and simple white paper what we see, although Trump sometimes seems to be like a nationalistic, but it's not. Sometimes he actually serving the interest of those what trichons who are who we do not see in the television or picture, but it's behind the scene. Those warmongers, they're doing their business, and USA now is focusing on those aggressive foreign policy. They are now implementing that in the context of Israel-Palestine. We have seen that even in the Iran-Israel conflict, their involvement was not actually expected. Although they were financing Israel for decades, but the way they involved in Iran conflict and the analysts say that it didn't bring any success for them actually, because the bomb the B-52, the bomber they put on Iran, it actually doesn't bring anything success, because Iran already withdraws those nuclear weapons and nuclear installation in other places. That the analysts were saying that. So it's actually again about it. Ultimately, they try to branding that US has this weapon, and if you want to, they have a bunker bomb, so which is effective in some situation. So they are now branding those issues for the benefits of those war industry and escalation of the conflict in other areas. So this is the branding.
Excellent. I want to come again to a conflict specialist. We have been watching Vladimir Putin since more than 2 decades. His rule, his war, his invasion. He's a very less talking personality. He talk very less.
Right.
And in West, there is a media proverbs that if you don't see Vladimir Putin in the screen, in the media, that means he is planning some invasion. If you see him in the media, he is making pleased or happy to the Russian people. If he again disappear from the media, he is in a one step ahead to invade some country. What is your comment in 21st century, such a leader in Russia, economically weak, population is very low, but he is invading country one by one, Crimea, Georgia, now Ukraine.
Should I answer?
Yes, sir. Question is for you, sir.
No, thank you very much. Now, if you look at Ukraine, Russia did not invade till the NATO decided to station their missiles in Ukraine.
Yeah. Very neighboring country.
So you see, if they put their missiles, if they put their hardwares in Ukraine, it is directly hitting Russia's belly, soft belly. So Russia had to ensure that certain portion is under his control. That was the reason it started. Now, secondly, you see, let me tell you one thing. Unlike Trump, who keeps on talking right and left, if you look at President Xi of China, or Khamenei of Iran, or even Putin, they do not talk much. They only talk when it is required. Because as a leader at that level, they have to be very particular. Because for Trump, he doesn't bother. He will say something now, after half an hour he will change his statement. But those leaders, they will not do that. They probably stand by their word. And another thing what you have to remember that US's main concern is that China quietly, very quietly, is overtaking USA in every aspect. The Indo-Pakistan war as well as Iran-Israel war has shown that the Chinese can counter USA. One. Secondly, the cost of a US aircraft, say, let's take example of F-35. Now, with that cost, probably you can buy, I don't know, maybe 5 to 6 J-10 or even maybe J-20. So, that is the factor. USA is very concerned because they are losing every day in the economic war. I don't know, a long day back I read in one of the magazine that probably the 1/3 of USA real estate belongs to the Japanese. And if you look at the treasury bond, the majority belongs to the Chinese.
Right.
But if Japan and China decide to pull out, what will happen to USA? Trump is not bothered. You see, whole purpose of Elon Musk to join Trump was for his own personal interest. He wanted to do some business, he probably has done, and now he has left, he is trying to form a new party.
Yeah, new party already born, America party. Mr. Norman, you are very attentively hearing the general's comment how China is taking over economically United States and how China is preparing themselves to counter United States even in the war field, even in the airspace. What is your comment on that?
Yes, good morning. That was a very interesting comment my colleague had about the relationship between China and the United States. Actually, the United States is trying to maintain its current presence. At the same time, China is accelerating their presence. They are manufacturing, they are producing other things, they're doing things cheaper, quicker, high quality, high volume. The issue is that the United States, we are not resource rich. We have to get resources from other places, so we have to make deals. China, on the other hand, do not have this issue. So the prospect of the future is more like China is moving fast. We're trying to maintain and stay afloat. What's going on with the world, at the same time, stay as a world leader. It's a very conflicting and difficult task. It's going to be very difficult to maintain that type of status at the present state. China is gaining.
Mr. Norman, we'll have to take a very short break. We'll come back soon.
এসএটিভি রাউন্ড টেবল এবারের বিষয় দুর্বৃত্তায়ন বিরোধী চেতনা ও জুলাই অভ্যুত্থান। দেখবেন 12 জুলাই শনিবার সকাল 11টায় এসএটিভি ও এসএটিভি ডিজিটালে।
গ্র্যান্ড প্যালেস হোটেল ঢাকা নিবেদিত গহিনের গান। গান পরিবেশন করবেন সেলিম চৌধুরী ও পপি। দেখবেন 12 জুলাই শনিবার রাত 11টায়।
এসএটিভি রাউন্ড টেবল এবারের বিষয় দুর্বৃত্তায়ন বিরোধী চেতনা ও জুলাই অভ্যুত্থান। দেখবেন 12 জুলাই শনিবার সকাল 11টায় এসএটিভি ও এসএটিভি ডিজিটালে।
গ্র্যান্ড প্যালেস হোটেল ঢাকা নিবেদিত গহিনের গান। গান পরিবেশন করবেন সেলিম চৌধুরী ও পপি। দেখবেন 12 জুলাই শনিবার রাত 11টায়।
এসএটিভি রাউন্ড টেবল এবারের বিষয় দুর্বৃত্তায়ন বিরোধী চেতনা ও জুলাই অভ্যুত্থান। দেখবেন 12 জুলাই শনিবার সকাল 11টায় এসএটিভি ও এসএটিভি ডিজিটালে।
গ্র্যান্ড প্যালেস হোটেল ঢাকা নিবেদিত গহিনের গান। গান পরিবেশন করবেন সেলিম চৌধুরী ও পপি। দেখবেন 12 জুলাই শনিবার রাত 11টায়।
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, inside the country and around the globe. My name is Rashid Kanchon, your host in International Affairs, live from SATV studio. I'm just curious to ask a question to Professor Rashid. You see, Vladimir Putin took only 3 days to invade Crimea. He took only 6 days to invade Georgia. Why he is making this war so prolonged? Yesterday, President Donald Trump says a bad word, I don't want to use it, but for the audience I need to use it. He said bullshit. He said President Vladimir Putin doesn't want to end the combat war with Ukraine. Do you find a significance of this prolonging war strategy by Vladimir Putin along with NATO and US allies?
Thank you. So at the moment, the war we are seeing in the global space is like very much, proxy war. So it's the era of proxy war we are, watching the developments. So although NATO didn't directly involve in this US Russia war, but they and USA earlier in the Biden administration, they hugely financed this war, for the Ukraine, and they supplied the weapons, they supplied all the necessary equipments for the war. So that's how it actually escalated. Even when Donald Trump came into second time into power, at the very beginning he said he's gonna have a peace deal between Ukraine and Russia. But we have seen within a few weeks, Ukraine had a successful drone attacks inside the Russia, which actually, accelerated the wars in the last few weeks actually. So Ukraine's successful drone attack inside the Russia, which made, I think, Putin anger again. And that's how this war gone further accelerated. Although Donald Trump has an intention probably to, he has a good friendship with Putin as we know, but even though internationally the NATO in some way is still financing and helping like the Ukrainian fight for their own survival. So that's how it's gonna get prolonged. And again, Russia, although have large scale of weapons and ammunition with them, they're now relying on the mercenaries, like they are bringing soldier from other countries, like which also I mean I think as a negative side for Putin as far, because his own soldier doesn't is not enough for this war. So that's why he's relying on some mercenaries, and when you involve mercenaries, it sometimes brings success, sometimes it prolongs your war progress. So that's how it's different dynamics and different issues are playing into this war. That's how it gets prolonged.
Yes. Before I go to General Shafat, I want to connect with Washington again. If I read out the latest situation of the war is over 700 drones and missiles, including 728 drones and 13 hypersonic missiles. Excuse me. Struck Ukrainian cities. Kiev suffered casualties and resumed Western arms amid. My question to Mr. Norman, probably this will be the last question to Norman because we are running a shortage of time. Norman, would you please let us know why reluctant, we see the NATO reluctant on Ukrainians' position, why we see the reluctance on President Donald Trump's. He took very quick measures regarding Iran and Israel, Israel and Hamas, India and Pakistan. Why he is so reluctant?
The situation in Ukraine is fluctuating daily. Like I mentioned before, we have interest in the resources, so we have somewhat of a commitment to help Ukraine. This on and off relationship, we're going to provide you weapons today, we're not going to provide you weapons tomorrow, is something that is somewhat of amazement to me right now, exactly what's going on. At the same time, Ukraine and Russia war is prolonging. It's been escalated. Russia has been now has increased. I believe yesterday was the largest drone attack they had since this 21-month event started. So the intensification is of the attacks and the war is becoming more intense. And now is more of a political, the proxy war is now turned into a political war between the United States and Russia. Comments made, promises broken, is very questionable. NATO, matter of fact, Italy is one of the countries that is starting to help Ukraine develop its reconstruction. They are not confident that the Trump administration is going to fulfill its obligations of providing protection. So they're looking at rebuilding. So there's a lot going on with this war. Russia's stance is to prolong it, so they will stop and quit. The United States is trying to support and provide support. At the same time, NATO is preparing for the next day. What happens after all of this going on? How do we rebuild?
Mr. Norman, slight diplomatic efforts is seen in diplomatic peace bids by Pope Leo offered the Vatican as a neutral venue for talks. Zelensky is coordinating a coalition of the willing to bolster defense support. If Pope Leo successfully can do it, what would be United States and their allies' position? Probably we have lost the connection with Washington DC. I want to do the same question to General Shafat. You have heard that Pope Leo offered the Vatican as a neutral venue for a peace talk between Zelensky and Vladimir Putin. Other representatives from both the country to go for a ceasefire in Russia-Ukraine war. Do you see any hope?
Difficult to say, because maybe because the Pope is mediating, maybe probably both the countries may agree to that, but it's difficult because on the Ukraine side, Zelensky will be forced, or he will be bound by certain conditionalities that is being that will be given by USA and the NATO countries. So I do not know, really it's difficult to predict. But possibilities are there, maybe that a time has come, probably they might go for a ceasefire.
This is the new Pope's first initiative for the world in order to peace. How do you see, Professor?
So I think I can go back to the Clash of Civilization thesis again. Like in the Clash of Civilization, the Samuel P. Huntington was saying that the civilization within the culture, like the whites do not fight whites, democracy do not fight democracy. That was his prediction. But what we are seeing at the moment, like Russian aggression on Ukraine or Ukraine-Russia war, is like different development or alternative, actually counter development of that thesis. So like now, Zelensky tried to like the use of those Christianity as a religion or Christian culture, the same culture Russia and Ukraine have, to bring the peace within those civilizations or within those countries. But the problem is like the world is not as idealistic during 90s that we had during the 90s decades, like the clash of civilization or like the fall of Berlin Wall. Those are the things that happened. But now we are in 2025 actually. So we are now progressing at a higher speed to like a new realism, new realism, new conservatism, new way of like escalating the conflicts in global space. The way Russia and Ukraine both invested in this conflict, I don't think there is anything to be negotiable, because the national interest is at stake, and they invested a lot, particularly like the peace deal they had, like the deal Zelensky had with Trump after his second term, that against the Ukrainian national interest, like the US will have a wider influence on the Ukrainian resources, so which is a deal against Ukrainian interests. So US, both of the country actually went too far in this conflict. I think Probe can do nothing in this.
So, do you find any potential that Qatar or Turkey will be on the stage for mediation for this case in particular?
They can do, but as I said, the conflict is too much they invested, and now any kind of peace deal apart from the two countries like the Ukraine, Russia, if they think that okay, enough is enough, we have already invested a lot and we had lost so many of our natural resources and human lives, so we must stop. And I think from the Zelensky should come out, like otherwise Putin, he is now presenting Russia as a world leader. So the withdrawing from this war from the Russian side, I don't think is any possibility, but the compromise had to come from Vladimir Zelensky, because
Volodymyr Zelensky, Ukrainian leader.
Yeah, because he has to accept that the US is no more with the Ukraine, so he is more and more alienated, I think, the coming days, because European Union, they although they're financing, but they have own conflict, own issues within their country. Even they have budgetary issues and inflationary issues within the European countries themselves. So how long they're gonna finance this war? So this is a big question at the moment. So I think Zelensky will get alienated in the coming days, and the compromise had to come from them to stop this conflict.
Very nice directions we have got from you. Let us come back to South Asia, especially in Bangladesh. Do you find Bangladesh's progress will be a little bit in obstacle by the 37% or 35% tariffs imposed by the Donald Trump administration to Bangladesh? How do you see this? Because it will make the complicacy and difficulties for the Bangladeshis to progress in RMG sector especially.
Yeah, it's a big concern for the country, like particularly for our businessmen and also RMG industries, which is actually generating the much of the foreign remittances for the country. So when you face this, because US is our largest apparel market, all of us know that. So and this is actually, beyond our imagination, this development taking place in the last 6 months. So I think, I hope that it's not only harm Bangladesh. There is a huge demonstration will also take place in USA, particularly like it actually ultimately hurts the consumers in USA. They will not be able to buy the things that cheaply, because US labor is also very much expensive. Although Donald Trump is saying that, okay, if you invest in USA, there is no tariff. What country will gonna get invest in US within a short time? So ultimately, it will put pressure on the consumer pockets. Like if you, the source, cheap supplies, if stop from Bangladesh or other countries, if they put too much tariffs on them, then they have to buy their clothes to everyday necessaries at a higher rate and higher price, which ultimately create pressure, and also the global financial market and trade and global capital market. It's a very negative alarm already rise. Even in 3 months before, when Trump was announcing that it's going to take place in the next few days, there is a huge collapse of the global capital market and financial market. So although Trump is alarming the same siren again, but I can see it won't be that easy because he will have then have to face the internal pressure and also pressure of the global financial market meltdown. So and where many American companies stake is there as well, like because the global financial market is not only within the USA, it has the connection with the China, East Asia, European countries. So that if they play out very negatively, then Trump have to retreat again from this aggressive tariff policies,
Right,
because
sir.
it will harm US economy as well.
Right, sir. I have a curiosity to ask a question to General Shafat. You know, Vietnam has been sanctioned 37%, Bangladesh also 37%.
35%
No, Vietnam has done a very successful negotiation. They made it 20%. Bangladesh made only 2%, I mean 35%. So don't you see as a diplomatic failure of Bangladesh?
I don't know how can I comment on it, because I'm very sorry to say that our foreign office has been sitting idle virtually. Because as a matter of fact, for last 15 to 17 years, the foreign office has not been doing any homework virtually, because they had been following whatever been instructed by Delhi or by the Prime Minister, because they never bothered what is the implication. Here also, because the moment it was announced, and it was in the air that Trump may do it, so the Bangladesh diplomats should have acted on it. But I don't know really what they did. But even now, Vietnam's is probably 30% now.
Now 20%.
20%.
Yeah.
And how about Thailand?
I don't
Thailand
have
is
the exact
36%.
figure. Yeah.
And so, but that will not make much difference, because they have to depend on Bangladeshi apparel. The problem will be for both Bangladesh as well as the American people, because the cost of production will go up.
As Professor Rashid says.
Right? So that will affect the people in
Yes.
USA, and in Bangladesh there will be pressure from the buyers to reduce the price.
Right, sir. I want to come back to you because your specialization is on immigration and remittance and political economy also in your PhD thesis. My question is very simple. Vietnam, country like Vietnam, Cambodia, China, Taiwan, they converted RMG to IT. Time has come to Bangladesh also to convert our economy from RMG to garments to IT.
Right.
Do you see any potential on that?
I think so. Like the huge reform that the ongoing the character government wanted to initiate, like in different sectors, like reducing dependency on the large scale bureaucratic labor or large scale bureaucracy, and increasing efficiency through digitalization of the services and products, and that will be helpful. Like as you said, as you give the example, Vietnam several times. Vietnam has going to a massive reform in their civil administration system. Like they reduce the number of the districts into half. So that the administrative districts in Vietnam will be reduced to half to reduce their bureaucratic spending. So that's how they wanted to increase efficiency in the production, increase efficiency, and reducing the government cost of rearing and cultivating a large number of civil administration. So Bangladesh had to go through a similar way, like to digitalization of the service, more and more IT-based industry where our skilled labor and cheap labor can be associated with. Our employment problem will be, the unemployment problem will be also reduced. Like they're transforming our youth to a more IT specialist, IT skill, and supplying the global resources in IT industries. That's how Bangladesh should progress,
Right.
and also digitalization their services and reducing the bureaucratic spending. That's gonna you have to counter.
My last
the
question.
counter.
My last question to you. I will do a direct question. I need a direct question answer in 30 seconds. Country is heading into an election. Country needs an election. Do you find any potential, the right time election for selecting the right people for the right government?
As I said, we are now in the month of July, which actually created a massive mass uprising and revolution in Bangladesh. Like it brings lots of prospect, and it actually creates lots of expectation. So I do admire we should have an election, but we need some basic reforms before that election. And I do have that basic reforms is possible within the next 6 months if the political parties are agreed, because political parties ultimately representing our our civilians, our citizens. So they have to accept there should be some reforms. Otherwise, the revolution, the mass uprising that taken place last year would not have any, positive sense in the country. So that's very important, and I think a free and fair election after those credible reforms is very necessary for the democratic transition of the country that we are looking for. Last 2 decades we didn't have any meaningful democracy in the country. So it's very important we have a credible election next year, but before that some excellent and radical reforms should be taken place within the political system and bureaucracy and also tax administration, everything you said. Otherwise we will not have our global competitiveness. Global competitiveness is very necessary to remain resilient in the global economic war that has started recently.
Excellent, sir. I will have the same question to General Shafat, very experienced personality. Do you want election quickly or election after the correction on the constitution?
I personally feel that elections should be held after the reforms are done. Because reforms are a must. Because if they do not do these reforms, I doubt whether political parties will ever go into a reform. They would like to go back to what was there. As a matter of, I'm sorry, I will say, probably the ideal would have been to scrap that constitution and have a fresh constitution. That would have been ideal. Because if you have this constitution, those clauses, articles will remain. They can be revived any time later on. So that is one thing. But I think election will be there. That is, I have all the confidence in the interim government and also on the political parties. But then what will be the outcome, I do not know. People are talking very loud. But at the end of the day, our country is basically used to be divided between two major parties. Now that one party is not taking part in the election, it will depend on how they vote.
Right.
That will depend on that. So it is very difficult to really predict how the things will. But probably, with all fairness, I can say probably BNP will get good majority to form the government.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. I had a very terrific panel today. We have discussed in different issues. We may have the different opinion, but we have come into a conclusion that for democracy, for the betterment of the country, betterment of the citizens, we must do some corrections on the current political issues, and we must go for election to keep the country in peace. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for your patience to watch this program. I'll see you Sunday.